In this week's module, I'm giving a video presentation on the same subject matter as my paper, which is the idea that backdoors that have been created and placed into operating systems, software, and any kind of application are unethical, and from a deontological perspective, they go against an ethical and moral course of action. So, privacy is a right that is enshrined to citizens of the United States in the Fourth Amendment. It protects us against illegal search and seizure, and this extends to our property that is digital as well. That could be anything from your search history, your application access, your location, any kind of data that you have that belongs to you while you're interacting with an application or creating content, sending messages, anything along those lines. I believe that personal messages and private information should not be available to be accessed by anyone except the person that created or received them. And the practice of allowing backdoor methods and software to give governmental agencies the ability to obtain or see this information is a violation of our rights that were expressly given in the Constitution. From a deontological perspective, it is not truthful or ethical for companies to give away personal information at the insistence of the government. And this would be done without the express consent to hand the information over, and each individual user would need to approve of their information being given access to in order for it to be a truthful endeavor. They would have to push out an update or make a major public announcement along with the update that they intend to invade your privacy, whether that be collecting more information, allowing other entities to access that information, selling that information, which is already, these are things that are already common practice, which have seemed to have desensitized a lot of individuals, but this is still a major issue that I believe is unethical on the grounds that I will further explain. In recent times, the government has begun to pressure tech firms and companies into being more cooperative with their efforts to have access to all of our personal information. And although it is created using the property of the company, the application, whether it be on your desktop, your phone, a laptop, in any capacity that you can imagine, our personal data is not meant to be used as a bargaining chip in order to get more tax incentives and regulatory exemptions, which is often the case when you see these companies and entities being pressured by the government to be more in line with what they need, give them more access, or grant them free reign into using your software and exploiting it to take information that the users have created, which would be their individual content. This can be seen with the recent messaging update that was put forth by Apple, who up until recently have been advocates for the privacy of its user base, not allowing the FBI or warrants or anything like that to break their commitment to keep the privacy of their users paramount at the forefront of all of their activities. They have started to screen messages for images and claim that this will help reduce illicit photos and media that could be sent to children. And I think this is only beginning, that there will be more violations of user privacy when it comes to encrypted data, or at least data that has previously been encrypted for the safety and security of phone users, application users, and in this case, iPhone users specifically, and iMessage. The new policy would screen every message, which creates the ability to filter and search their information and data when the encryption is broken. This effort may find some success when implementing this strategy to examine all image or media files, but in doing so, this would be a violation of our rights to privacy by inspecting interactions in the many forms that this could take. A few examples would be checking personal messages, which is a conversation or exchange between individuals, entities, whoever it may be. Messages sent through applications that are using the phone as the hardware to do so, or whatever hardware you happen to be using, as I stated earlier, laptop or desktop, any kind of computer device that has access to the internet or the application at hand. And searches done through any form of inquiry system that is available on the internet, such as Bing, Google, any of those big powerhouses that are used by basically everyone at this point. Even if this does find some success, it would be at the expense of the rights of every user that is innocent but has their data inspected. This small step in the direction of starting to inspect messaging content will only be further exploited and can be stolen if these applications are themselves breached. So here I have the statement by Apple, which is available, and I'll put it in my bibliography on the paper, but available on Apple's website themselves. And it reads, at Apple, our goal is to create technology that empowers people and enriches their lives while helping them stay safe. We want to help protect children from predators who use communication tools to recruit and exploit them. Apple is introducing new child safety features in 3 areas developed in collaboration with child safety experts. First, new communication tools will enable parents to play a more informed role in helping their children navigate communication online. The messages will use on device machine learning to warn about sensitive content while keeping private communications unreadable by Apple. However, there would be no way for them to scan it for sensitive content unless they are readable by Apple, because they would have to access it and address any issues that they would see based on the machine learning that they have. Next, iOS and iPad OS will use new applications of cryptography to help limit the spread of such material online while designed for user privacy. I believe that these things are counterintuitive, as I've previously stated, and that it is a violation of our rights the way that Apple has gone about this, and I believe that they're being disingenuous from a deontological perspective. Even in doing so, even if they find some success, like as I stated earlier, it's at the expense of all those who are innocent. And this small step in the direction of starting to inspect messaging content will only be further exploited and can now be stolen if these applications themselves are breached. So if Apple or any other firm that would be collecting your user data, your search history, your messaging data, if they're breached, then your information will be breached as well, since they have access to it and they're dealing with it. They do not outright give the information away like some other companies do, and Gmail is a great example of this, in that they claim that they do not have access to your information, but can access your online activity to automate ads that get sent to you. So here I've got this pulled up as well. So I found a study on how, an article on how Gmail uses common search history and things that you repetitively access on Google and your search history to create ads that automatically address areas that you have paid specific attention to, and without them having the ability to see your information, your search history, anything along those lines, they would be unable to tailor these automated ads to you. So that is a violation of your privacy. So here we go. And that the company claims that they do not monitor your data, but they have built in the ability to monitor and spy on you if that is their will. The software has been purposely engineered to accommodate entry into your personal information that is being gathered while using the application. In this case, Google and associated systems are in Gmail, Google Drive, any of those things. It is dishonest for Gmail or Google to say that they are not monitoring you while actively having the potential to gain access with an update to the code or the programming of the system, the engineering. And it is disingenuous for them to make claims of respecting user privacy and trust when they knew that the ability to spy on you, the user, anyone in this point that would be using the software, would be included in their design. This goes against the deontological idea that honesty be paramount in the decisions that are made and the declarations that are put out to the public by these entities and companies. It would be detrimental for the growth, but in line with the commitment to honesty, if Google had announced with its launch that it would monitor user activity and be capable of encroaching further. And the ability to monitor you may not have been with it since the launch. However, at the point that they put that into the system and that began happening, it would have been deontologically in line with their ideals had they come out and made a public announcement and made it very easily accessible and understandable to the user what was about to start happening with your data and how they would be handling it and the encroachments that they would be taking. The aim of greater protection, or its use as a reason to gain even more overreach into user information and activity data, goes against ethical ideals and fundamentals, even though it will allow illegal content to possibly be spread. These consequences are not worth the impact that taking away Fourth Amendment and privacy rights from users could eventually lead to. And though, as I've stated earlier, though this may find some success from a deontological perspective, these consequences are not enough to provide reason for the encroachment on the rights of privacy that all the other users who are innocent would be um, subject to in the operation of these backdoors and their application and usage throughout software systems. Current backdoors and their advances with the continuance of time are immoral when looked at from the perspective of a constitutional commitment to freedoms and rights that are meant to be guaranteed for citizens of the United States, and privacy rights that I believe are needed for each individual in that online space to not be exploited by all these firms and companies that we have to use when we're using anything on the internet in order to interact, be competitive, be profitable, anything that you can think of that you go through in your daily life. When these same companies make statements or pledges that user information will not be exploited or collected, which all major platforms do in an effort to attract more users, and that they will be honorable stewards of your data, it is deceitful and should be condemned for not being honest. Backdoor capabilities in software and applications are unacceptable from the deontological perspective that it will infringe on user privacy. This is unethical when we consider that it goes against the notion of maintaining freedoms without a regard or consideration for the consequences. The same perspective that we have would condemn the false statements and promises that are put out by the plethora of companies that purposefully gather browsing history and scan user content and data without a concern for the privacy being trampled and cast aside. The user privacy being trampled and cast aside. Once a backdoor has been put into a software system, it will permanently be a transgression that cannot be reversed and will ultimately be expanded with the passage of time. So once these companies have the power to collect your data, go through it, sort through it, send it, sell it to all these other companies that use it for marketing, advertisements, anything along these lines, once they have that power, we're unlikely to ever get it back. And the same can be said of by these companies that take our information, or the government when they pressure these companies to take that information. They'll gain access to it, but that'll not be something that they ever give up or ever give back to us. Once something is taken away, I do not believe that we will ever get it back, and it's an encroachment on our rights that will be a permanent stain that is going to be very hard to reverse. Government pressure will also affect the companies, and incentives will be offered that will sway more companies, which we see is the case all the time, as I've spoken about earlier, with tax incentives and easier dealings with the IRS and such entities. And punitive action will be used on entities that will try and refrain from engaging in these invasive practices. So say companies are going to be sticking to their guns and holding user privacy paramount in their operations, and they don't comply with FBI or CIA or any of these other governmental agencies when they're going to investigations or subpoenas and putting out warrants and things. They're going to be targeted more by the IRS, or publicly disregarded or talked about as though they're doing more harm than good, when they're actually being true to their word and true to their ideals when they were formed, and trying to keep this user privacy paramount that the government just wants to take for themselves and use it to exploit us. And in the end, it is deontologically imperative that companies persist in their endeavors to protect user privacy and be honest about their design and engineering when related to such issues. It's not just these few applications that I've noted here, but the practice of putting backdoors and allowing government entities to have pretty much free reign over the things that we do is becoming more and more common practice, and I believe that it's very disheartening and disingenuous for the internet at large, when privacy should be at the top concern for all of us, and we should all be taking steps to be as honest as we can when we design software ourselves that is not going to have a negative impact on privacy, on user information, or on any kind of trust that we have or we build with our users as we create this software, or as we come up with algorithms that will enhance the software. We should do everything in our power to keep backdoors from being exploited and to keep them out of systems moving forward, or at least to limit the reign that they have now, if not repeal them within any ability that we have. I think that that's a course that I'm going to try to stick to throughout my computer science career, and be as honest and open as I can with my clients, my customers, whoever I interact with. Take that very seriously, but All of my references that I've used have come from the policies themselves, from Gmail or in Apple that I've used as examples. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Thank you.